Hey guys, how's it going? Previously on the channel, I made a video, I want to say a couple weeks ago. I made a video talking about yearly changes on the 140s when it comes to the earlier 140s compared to the later 140s. I thought I'd revisit the 140 topic, and I wanted to make a video, and I kind of wanted to go over things to look for when you're buying a 140. Let's say you're getting into the garden tractor hobby and you're buying a John Deere and you want to find a 140. I thought I'd go over, there's not really a whole lot of videos on YouTube about these tractors. I think really the only channel I've seen that really focuses in on these, and I've been told the only channel that really focuses in on these tractors at all, is my channel. I don't really, well, I think there's a couple other ones, but I think my channel is pretty much the one that covers these, every detail about them, I guess. So anyway, I'm gonna make a video today talking about things to look for when buying a 140 and things to watch out for, and cool facts about the 140 you probably didn't know. So let's go on ahead and get into it. The first thing that you wanna look for when you are buying a 140 is you want to go around it. The first thing I would do is check for leaks. Now this one's not really a prime example of a 140. As you can see, it has leaks. It's actually been sitting here overnight. As you can see, I left it here overnight just to show that. You want to look for leaks when it comes to the front end as well as the rear end. On some of these tractors, the rear end will leak. You want to check underneath. If you see it leaking, find out where it's coming from. Other times you might be getting oil out of your wheel seal, which is right here. It's actually in there further. You got to take the brake off, the brake drum and brake assembly out in order to get to the seal in there. Sometimes there is a seal in there that goes bad. Maybe sometimes you'll get lucky. This one over here is not wet, but it's the same setup as over there. Go around it, check your tires, make sure the tires aren't dry rotted. Sometimes if you have other tires on hand, it's not really a big deal when it comes to tires, but just go around it and look at them and make sure that the tires on it look good and everything looks good. Come up here and inspect your drive lever. Make sure it moves forward. Make sure it moves back. Make sure it's not too stiff, make sure that it doesn't feel like it's getting ready to break. Make sure it's not too loose. You want it to have a little bit of tension on it, but you want it to be easy to move, if you know what I mean. Come up to it, check your throttle. Make sure your throttle cable moves good, not too loose. Choke cable. Choke cable doesn't necessarily have to go up all the way. It doesn't go a very far distance. Come up to it, turn your wheels, make sure your front wheels turn, left and right. PTO switch works, Turn the key. I don't have a battery in it right now, so it's not gonna run. But turn the key over, listen to it run, listen real good to it, see if it has compression. It's usually easy to tell if an engine has compression. If an engine has compression, you'll hear it. If an engine doesn't have compression, you won't hear it'll be really easy for the starter to turn over the engine if it doesn't have compression, and the engine will not run. A couple other things to watch out for when it comes to the 140, or really any tractor in general, is once you start the engine, or actually watch around it, make sure you don't see any sparks coming from anywhere, from the frame, from the solenoid, from the starter. Usually if you see sparks flying around, you've got a bad ground, or something is going bad and you're gonna have to look into it and figure out what it is. Go up to it, start the engine, listen to the engine, and watch out for smoke. Depending on what type of smoke you have, if you have black smoke, usually the engine is running rich, and a simple carb adjustment or carb cleaning, or just changing the fuel that is in the tank, because sometimes they do sit for a while, and if you're buying one that's been sitting for, let's say, a year, and it still has the same fluid or still has the same gas in it, and surprisingly runs, then your fuel's not going to run too well, and it might smoke a little bit and run a little bit rich. Or if your carb is getting gummed up and one of the jets is bad, sometimes you have to choke it in order to help keep the engine running. That could be caused by the carb gumming up or not getting enough fuel, or your inlet on the carb might be getting plugged up, or your fuel filter might be plugged up and need to be replaced. Fuel filter is not hard to replace. Same with the thing on the carb. If it's plugging up, that's not too hard to get into at all. However, if the engine is blowing white smoke is a tall tale sign that your engine burns oil. Reasons for it burning oil is the rings are shot and it needs new rings. The bore is out of spec and the engine will need to be completely rebuilt. When I say that, I mean the engine's going to need to be bored out. You're going to have to put an oversized piston in it. New rings. You might be able to get away with using the same rod. Listen to the engine. If the engine runs good and it doesn't smoke at all and it sounds like it's running real good, take a good listen to it. Sometimes these old Kohlers do tend to tick. If you hear a little tick and it's coming from the valve terrain, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Kohlers are known to tick. I do have some Kohlers that tick. I don't really worry about that too much. It just kind of, if it gets any louder, I kind of start to worry about it, but I've had a couple that ticked ever since I've owned them. I've owned them now for 3 years and they haven't had any problems. You might just need to go in there and adjust your valves. The clearances for the valves, the intake is 8, the exhaust is 18. Adjust your valves to those clearances and you should be good to go. When you get the tractor running, if you're not hearing any knocks, if you're not hearing any ticks, listen for knocks, by the way. If you're not hearing any knocks, ticks, go up to it, move the tractor back and forward. If the tractor doesn't move when you push that lever forward or pull it back, check your transmission disengage right here. This disengages it so you can push the tractor. If you thread it in, that means that it's disengaged. If you thread it out, that means the transmission's engaged. That'll re-engage your transmission. On the older tractors, the disengage is underneath the seat right here. This right here is where you check your transmission fluid, to make sure that it has enough fluid in it. If the tractor leaks transmission fluid out, more than likely, if you're lucky, it doesn't leak very much. Unfortunately, if you're not lucky and it's empty, the tractor is not really going to go anywhere, so you'll have to put more fluid in it in order for it to drive. If the tractor drives good, then you should be okay. If you have an attachment on it, such as a mower deck, lift and lower it. Watch your hydraulic levers and see if they're stuck together like that. I have not found a good way to get those unstuck yet. If I knew a way to do it, I would say it, but unfortunately, I haven't figured it out quite yet. So there you go. I don't know on that one. Check your air filter. Make sure the air filter looks good. This right here's your air filter. Some of the 140s and 120s have a heavy duty air filter that mounts right here, and it has a hose that comes off. I think you pop a couple of tabs in order to get that filter to come out. Look at that filter, see how that filter looks, and if it looks good, you should be okay. That's actually a rare option. I have never seen a 140 with that before. I've looked at a couple online, but I just thought they were kind of neat to look at. Other things you want to look at when buying a 140 is check your wheel bearings in the front, and also take note of what style spindle you have. This is a 3/4 inch spindle. They had the 1 inch spindle as well in the 140s. in 1972, they introduced that style. That right there is a 1-inch spindle, as you can see. I would take note on that just in case you have to replace your wheel bearings. You want to make sure you get the correct wheel bearings, as well as if you have to do any spindle work or front axle work. One other thing that I would check is I would steer both front tires facing straight, and then get off of the tractor and look at both of the front tires and see if they are going straight. I don't think either one of mine are straight, but you want to make sure that it's going straight or facing forward and both tires are in line and one is not pointed in or pointed out. That'll cause excessive wear to your front tires, and it's also not good for them. What else? Check your engine oil. Make sure your engine oil is full and it looks good. If the engine is low on oil, I would ask the owner of it at the time before you buy it if the engine, if the engine burns oil. I would also be alarmed if you buy it or if you go to look at it and you find a cloth on the gas cap. If the gas cap's not there, if it's a cloth, or if the little plastic cover is missing and this hole is exposed like mine is, I need to do something about that still. Go over it, check your wiring, make sure your wiring all looks good and that you don't have anywhere that looks like mice have been into it. Like I said, drive it around, push the brakes, make sure the engine can handle the brakes being pushed and it can pull itself around and, there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes an engine, I've ran into this, sometimes an engine will run really good, when it's not doing any work. And then once you start working it, all of a sudden it has a little bit of a struggle and it starts burning oil. Where if it's just sitting there running, not with any load on it at all, it'll sit there and run just fine. You won't see any smoke. I have run into that before. Other things to look for. Here's some rare options you might find on your 140 if you come across one. Sometimes they have a rear PTO. The rear PTO will be located right there. Or you might have rear hydraulics. The hydraulic ports will be located right here. And they would look like what you see up here. And other buying advice, make sure it has an air filter on it. That's another thing that I would check and make sure it has. I wouldn't buy it if it didn't have an air filter on it. I would look over the hood. I would see how the hood looks, because the hood will end up bothering you in the future if you don't care about it when you first buy the tractor. All of a sudden you'll look at it later on after you've bought the tractor and you'll complain about how the hood looks. I've done that before. So make sure the hood looks good to you and that you like it. This really isn't a show tractor, and I'm sure you guys can tell it's not really a show tractor. It's more or less of a worker. So this one kind of parades in its own filth. Well, not really in its own filth, but it just kind of looks the way it is. It's in its work clothes. Some other things to look for when you're buying a 140, and I actually made a video on this as well if you're interested. They actually had a patio line of the 140 as well as the 120. If you're going out and you're looking at a 140 and you see some white paint poking through the green in scratches, or the green paint is starting to peel off and you can see white paint, I would inspect it a little bit further. I would run the tag. If it's a 1970 or 71, I believe the tags do say if it's a patio or not. I think 1969 they didn't say if it was a patio or not, but for that I'm not exactly sure. Feel the transmission, move it forward, see how it moves, see if the transmission is jerky or not. If it jerks forward really bad, sometimes you might just take this and loosen it up, because maybe the valves aren't open all the way, and push on it again and see if that improves it any. If not, your transmission might be a little bit wore out. They do get a lot of hours on them over their lives. put the drive lever in the middle and see, sometimes these old tractors, they creep. What creep is if you have the tractor in neutral and you get off of it and you wait for a little bit, the tractor will start moving forward or backwards. That is creep. And the way to stop it from creeping is you move your lever forward or back to stop it from creeping forward or stop it from creeping back. And usually if you move the lever forward like that, it'll stop it from creeping. There is a way to adjust that out of it. Personally, I think the best way to do it is just to move the lever forward and move the lever back. That'll stop it from creeping. Sure, you got to keep an eye on it more. You got to keep an eye on it, and make sure that it doesn't start creeping. And if you walk away from it to go take a piss and you come back and all of a sudden your tractor is moving and it's going to your neighbor's yard, I would be alarmed about that. But I mean, just watch it, make sure it doesn't run away. Another thing that I would watch out for, and this tends to happen on the ones that are more wore out or loose, sometimes if you move your lever forward, and I have actually seen this before, the lever will pull itself all the way forward and you have to pull back on the lever so the lever doesn't go all the way forward. I have seen that before. I would watch out for that. If you run across a 140 that does that, either your transmission's wore out or your thing is just out of adjustment and it's too loose and it needs to be tightened. I think the way to tighten this is right here. I think there's a nut in there somewhere. There it is right there. You tighten that or you loosen that, and that puts tension on this. Is there anything else that I want to talk about? Or is that it? If the tractor had a battery in it, I would start it up for you guys and let you listen to it. But unfortunately, it doesn't have a battery in it right now or gas. And I don't really feel like putting a battery in it because as soon as I do, it's going to come right back out. The gas is going to get drained right back out and it's going to end up being parked. So yeah. I can't really think of anything else to talk about on the 140s. Oh, another thing to watch out for when you're buying a 140, in 1971 or 70, John Deere made a line of 140s for the Navy, believe it or not. There's 3 known to exist at the moment, at this current time. In 1971, they made those 140s for the Navy, like I said. They were H1 140s. They had them painted orange, yellow, painted yellow. It was a Caterpillar yellow, and the rims were John Deere yellow already. They had duals on the rear, and they had single front tires. They were H1, like I said before. They called them tuggers. A way to spot if you have a Navy 140 or not, sometimes they get painted over, like how the patios were. Sometimes the patios would get painted over or the Navies would get painted over. There'd be a couple holes in the frame right here for where a brass plate would be, unless somebody repaired that and got rid of it. Another way to tell is if you start scratching around on your fender pan or your dash or your frame, and if you start finding Caterpillar yellow paint, well, you just might have yourself a Navy. That's another thing I'd watch out for if you're going after a 140. So yeah, I think that is just about it. That is the last thing that I can think of. I can't really think of anything else to add to this video. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching. Oh, if you're buying a 140 and it has a mower deck on it, if you're buying the 140 just to mow your yard, which first off, this is way too big of a machine in order to do something like that. Turn the deck on, listen to how the engine sounds when you turn the deck on. Make sure the engine can handle it, or if it's got a rototiller on the back. Ask whoever you're buying it off of if they'll let you take it and do a little bit of tilling in their garden. And if they do, take it, go to their garden and do a little bit of tilling with it. I'd till a pass I'd till a pass or two with it just to see how it does. And if the engine handles it well and it doesn't seem like it bogs too bad or has any real problems, or let them mow a pass with it and see how it mows. If it starts blowing white smoke out, and how it runs. If it runs good, well, you know, it should be a pretty good machine. Sometimes you do have to adjust the carbs, which isn't really that hard. If you got to adjust it, just start the engine up, let it run. And right here is one of the screws that you would adjust. Same with that one. That one's your idle. This one up here is your air fuel mix. Why is that open so far? That's odd. And this one you adjust when you have the engine full throttle. This one you adjust when you have the engine at idle. And you'll usually be able to spot it when the engine starts running good. And if it sounds good, you know, just stop adjusting it and let it sit there and run. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, remember to leave a like on it and leave me a comment down below if you guys have any video suggestions that you guys want to see. I do read the comments on my videos. I do go through and I do react to them. I do comment on them and I do reply. I do want to thank you guys for watching. We are at 750 subscribers, which I thought was kind of cool. We were at 700 about a month ago, maybe not even a month ago. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see all of you in the next video. Take care. Bye.